eventbrite.com to purchase tickets. And for more information, go to bettysdaughterarts.com or call 919-283-9032. This has been your WBAI Community Bulletin Board. If you have an event you would like us to announce, please send it 2 weeks in advance to cbb@wbai.org.
And once again, this is WBAI New York, 99.5 FM, and WBAI.org on the web. The previous program was the Jordan Journal with Howard Jordan starting at 3 p.m. on Fridays. Thank you, Earth Month, for those announcements from the Community Bulletin Board. Stay tuned for State of the Arts NYC with Savona Bailey-McClain coming up.
Good evening. This is State of the Arts NYC, where we cover art. And tonight, our theme is putting one's heart and soul into the work. We are so delighted to have with us the co-directors of the first fully painted length animated film, Loving Vincent. And we have those directors, Dorota Kobelia and Hugh Welchman. They will share the process behind this breakthrough film with our audience. Each of the film's 65,000 frames is an oil painting on canvas using the same techniques as Van Gogh, created by a team of 115 painters. Also joining us live in the studio is Melissa Smey, Executive Director of the Miller Theater and the Arts Initiative at Columbia University. Smey is also the newly appointed Associate Dean and Executive Director for Columbia's School of the Arts. Along with her is Sophia Michahelles, co-director of the Processional Arts Workshop with her husband, who is the co-director, Alex Kahn. They will talk about the 6th Annual Morningside Lights, which is a participatory arts project. And then Smell will join us with Lina Puerta to discuss her new public art installation at the Miller Theater from her Botanico Series. So let's get started. Hello, Dorota and you, how are you?
Hi, it's just Hugh, and I'm very well.
Oh, okay. Is Dorota still not feeling well?
Yeah, she sprained her ankle, and then it started playing up, and so she has to go and get it treated.
Oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm so glad to have you onto the show. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
So, this film is quite exciting. I got to see a sneak preview of the film in Midtown, and I have to say that it's really a gorgeous film to see all of the different scenes that are painted in the same style as Vincent van Gogh. Tell us, what made you think about doing such a work?
Well, it was Dorota's idea, and she actually trained as a painter, but she spent her 20s working in film, and she really missed painting, and she wanted to combine her passion for painting and her passion for film. So she was going to bring her own paintings to life as a short film. And she was looking around for inspiration, and she was reading, or rather rereading, the letters of Vincent van Gogh, and it hit her that his story was so emotional and such a thrilling story that rather than bring her own paintings to life, she should bring his paintings to life to tell his story. And in his final letter, Vincent, the one that was found on his body after his death, he said, "We can only speak by our paintings." And she wanted to do that for him. She wanted to bring his paintings to life to speak for him.
I have to say, when I was viewing the film, I did feel this emotional connection to Vincent van Gogh. I felt that I got to learn more about him from a very personal standpoint and felt very sympathetic to him. He was this deeply sensitive soul that was trying so hard to please other people and share his gifts and talent. I felt that immediately. But what really helped all of that is your ensemble. You put together great composers, musicians together to provide the score for the film, the sounds, the other additional sound works that you had there. I just thought that it really offered this sort of comprehensive, immersive experience when watching the film. Wouldn't you say so?
Well, I mean, for us, it was actually a joy to have Clint Mansell do the score of the film, because I don't think there's any composer living who can bring out that melancholic but uplifting combination in the way that he could, which seemed to fit so well with Vincent's own artwork. And in terms of the portraits, we wanted to find, famous faces for these famous paintings, and we were very lucky to get people like Saoirse Ronan and Chris O'Dowd and a great ensemble cast to join us. And we needed to find actors that looked like the paintings, but also could bring out those characters. And how we did it was we actually shot footage with the actors, so they were acting in a green screen studio. And then our painters would look at that performance frame by frame, and on a screen in front of them, and then they would reimagine that onto their canvas as a Vincent-style painting.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So you layered everything on top. So that must have been interesting, because you had to find very good actors to kind of bring all of that emotion out. So therefore you can add the paintings on top of it and kind of completely tell the story. So tell us a little bit more about, the process of this feature-length film that's painted. How long did it take you to do this? Was it difficult to get, sponsors to support your whole, effort?
Yeah, so we started this journey. Dorota came up with the idea for the short film 10 years ago, and together we started working on it as a feature film 6 years ago. And there were three big challenges, really. One big challenge was really working out how to relate the story, the mysterious investigation into the circumstances of his death, and how to relate those to the paintings. So, how we were bringing his paintings to life to tell that investigative story that's at the core of our film. Then the second challenge was to train enough painters to paint 65,000 individual oil paintings. Wow. So, these were people who are amazing painters, but they painted in their own style. They didn't paint in Vincent's style, and they hadn't animated before. So we put them through a very rigorous training system. So we actually had 5,000 applicants from around the world. Wow. And from that, we auditioned 500 who had to come to Poland and do a 3-day audition in painting animation. Wow. And of those 500, 130 were selected for training, and pretty much all of those came onto the production and joined the production. So that was the second challenge, was finding and training the oil painters. And then the third challenge was the financing, because even though a lot of film financiers really liked the script and they liked the idea and they knew that Vincent was a popular subject, they were skeptical about two things. The first thing is when we told them how we were making the film as individual oil paintings frame by frame, then they told us that it was going to take us 10 years to paint, not 2 years. So they didn't believe us when we said that we were going to paint it all in 2 years. And the second thing was that they asked me to give examples of other films that had been made in this style that had been successful.
Oh, come on.
And, of course, no one else has made a film like this before.
That's so ridiculous, and it's so typical. I'm sorry, I had to break in there. It's so typical of funders to ask that question because what they want is a guarantee. They want a home run. They don't want to take any risk. So to ask you, someone who's doing something innovative and creative, is there any examples of anybody else doing it? It just sounds so ludicrous. I can't believe that.
But we were lucky that, along our way, we spoke to hundreds of people and we got very good co-producers in the UK, Trademark Films, and the producers behind that were responsible for Shakespeare in Love and Madness of King George, and they were very confident and they believed in the project. And then we had a couple of individual financiers who risked a lot to get this film pushed forward, and then, bit by bit, as we were releasing footage into the world, then much more mainstream distributors and film financiers came on board and realized that we were going to, fulfill our promise, and we were going to finish this film on time and on budget, and so then by the end we had a lot of supporters, and we were very well taken care of.
Yes, when I was looking at the screening, there was a writer who I know in the room, and she was almost in tears just watching the film. She always loved Vincent van Gogh. She felt that she got even closer to him. It's like, are you getting that often, hearing that from people, that they feel like they've gotten closer to this man who's been gone now for quite a long time, that they feel like they know him personally?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons we made the film is because Vincent's like a rock star in terms of people, even though he's been dead, they still feel a connection to him through his words and his works, his paintings, and people can connect with him on a very individual basis. So there's been many artists who have made homages to Van Gogh, and this one is our love letter to Vincent, and we know that there are a lot of Van Gogh fans out there, and that this film will probably resonate with them. But also, we've shown it to audiences that don't really know much about Vincent, and they're more intrigued by the whole style of the paintings coming to life, and also the murder mystery.
Yes.
Did he commit suicide, or was he shot by these teenage boys that he hung out with? So we're hoping that people who didn't know about Vincent before will want to find out more about him and what really happened to him, and go and see his paintings, read his letters. And like you say, for people who are already fans, then we want to try and get them closer and inside his work and inside his world. And Vincent really helped us in this respect by painting his entire world, his shoes, his coffee pots, his bedroom, the people who were serving him food, his postman, his friends. So we could create this world based upon his paintings, and that's why it feels like his world.
It does. And what I also experienced is that he was this really gentle person. I mean, like a really, really gentle person who was kind and thoughtful of the people around him who he cared about. Yes, he had some other, personal issues like the ear issue, but wasn't that basically because of the ringing in his ear? I thought that was more physical than anything else.
Well, I think that was a culmination of the year that had led up to that, and particularly, the pressure he was under he's on the point of a nervous breakdown when Gogh came to live with him, and Gogh was probably not the easiest man to live with, and the two of them were arguing and competing, and I think it got too much for him, and also the day that he cut off his ear, he heard that his younger brother, who supported him financially, was getting engaged, and I think the combination of Gogh abandoning him, because Gogh, after a big argument, left the house, and the thought that his younger brother, who was completely his emotional and financial lifeline, was going off in a new direction and probably having his own family.
Leaving him,
I think it all led to a very major breakdown inside his head, and it's hardly surprising considering that he had spent months where he was working in the intense sunlight every day, working in the fields under the sunlight, not drinking any water, drinking too much wine and brandy, having up to 40 cups of coffee a day every day, and inventing this whole new style of painting and doing up a painting a day, and then going out in the evenings and talking about it and writing these long letters to his brother and reading these long novels. I think anyone else in his circumstances would have had a breakdown much sooner, but he was physically very, very resilient, and so by the time that he had a breakdown, his mind was just glowing, really.
Yes, I felt for him. I really do. But let's now talk about the release of your film. So Loving Vincent is going to open in the United States September 22nd in a few select cities. Is that correct? And then it will expand to more cities across the country?
Yeah, so it's going out in New York at Lincoln Plaza Cinema on the 22nd. Then we open in LA on the 29th of September. And then there are, I think, 30 cities nationally opening in mid-October. And, if people will be kind enough to go and see the film and like it and tell their friends about it, then hopefully it'll keep going to more places because, we get letters from people from all over the U.S. I mean, Vincent's a very popular man in this country.
Now, you also have a website, too, correct?
Yeah, so lovingvincent.com. People can find out the nearest screening room. And if there's no cinema screening it near them, then they should just phone up their cinema and ask them to screen it.
Okay. That's a way of getting around.
People power.
Yeah, people power. All right. So I wanted people to know that it really is, for our audience, it is a gorgeous film. The colors alone, when you see them and how they merge, it's just absolutely, positively stunning. Who came up with the title Loving Vincent?
Yes, again, that would be my wife, Dorota.
Okay.
So, and it was based upon his letters because, there are two reasons that it's called Loving Vincent, because the film is all about loving Vincent, but it's also because he used to sign many of his letters to his brother, "Your loving Vincent."
Oh, how beautiful. He really was this tender soul. I think a lot of people will really be surprised when they see the film. And the actors, where did you get all of those actors? They were fantastic.
We were very lucky to have such a great cast. I think that a lot of them, they liked the script and their roles in the film, but also they wanted to see what they looked like as Van Gogh paintings. And part of their contract was that we're going to send them a painting from the film at the end of it. So, I think they liked that. And the hardest role for us to find was Dr. Gachet, because Vincent, when he was talking about his portrait, he wanted to have the heartbroken expression of our generation. And, we were very, very pleased when we found Jerome Flynn, who I believe in America, you guys know him from Game of Thrones, his Bronn in Game of Thrones.
I love Games of Thrones. Yes, I do. I'm a big fan.
And, he's just got the most soulful and melancholic face, and he delivers just an amazing performance as Dr. Gachet. So it was a real honor to work with him and people like Chris O'Dowd, who played our giant postman, and Chris is actually pretty giant in real life. And then Saoirse Ronan was always going to be Margaret Gachet in Dorota's eyes. It's like that was the very first idea for the casting that painting.
Great cast, great music too. I mean, it was just a well put together, great package, and we wish your whole team all the best. I loved it. I am going to recommend it. We've already posted some of the images, did a post on our website, State of the Arts, on WordPress.com. I really feel that this is one of the hits of the season, and I hope you guys get some Oscar buzz out of this as well. Do you think?
I would love that, you know. I mean, we haven't really been thinking about it till now because we were too busy painting the entire film and getting it finished. But of course, who wouldn't want to go to such an incredible event like the Oscars?
I know you guys really, really deserve it. So I just wanted to thank you so much, Hugh, for taking the time to talk with us as you're gearing up for your New York City premiere. This is fantastic, and I wish Dorota well, because I know that she hurt herself, and I hope that she gets to heal very, very soon.
I'm sure she will, and she's already looking forward to coming back to America. So I hope we have a reason to come back, and the film will still be playing.
Okay, well, thank you so very, very much, and we're going to take a break now for our next segment. Thank you. And we are back with State of the Arts NYC, where we talk about art here, okay? We cover art. So now we just finished having a wonderful conversation with Hugh Welchman. Hugh Welchman is the co-director with his wife, Dorota Coppelia. They did this fabulous film, Loving Vincent, and it's the first fully painted, animated picture that's ever been done, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And what they did was they actually had a team of about 115 artists, and they painted each frame of the film in the oil painting style of Vincent van Gogh. It's stunning. It's beautiful. It releases in the United States September 22nd, and New York is one of the cities where it will be featured, so please run out and check out this film. I think you will be thoroughly pleased, and the story as well as the music is very heart-wrenching, to say the least. So now we move on to our second segment, which is in two parts. So we are very fortunate to have with us today Melissa Smey. And Melissa Smey, in this portion of our segment, is being joined with Sophia Michahelles, and they are going to be talking to us about Morningside Lights. And Morningside Lights is a sort of a participatory sort of pageant that they do every single fall. And in fact, it's going to start next weekend or this weekend?
Starts tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, where people can come. It's free of charge to the Miller Theater on 116th Street and Broadway, and they can help create a beautiful paper puppet sculpture. Now, tell us about the theme, because I think this is very interesting, the Secret Garden. So tell us about the theme.
So this has been 6 years of collaboration between Processional Arts Workshop and Miller Theater and Arts Initiative at Columbia. And each year we create a procession that goes through Morningside Park and ends up on Columbia campus. And each year we develop a different theme. So Alex Kahn and I from Processional Arts Workshop are the artists, and we work closely with Melissa and folks at Miller and Arts Initiative. And we always look for a theme that will both lends itself to telling a story in procession, and also really helps connect with something in the here and now. So it might be Harlem, it might be a wider geographic focus, but or something that's happening that's relevant. And this year, Melissa approached us with this idea of sort of looking into the wealth of community gardens that are developing in Harlem, and sort of these amazing little secret gardens that are kind of popping up, and some have been going on for decades, and are sort of a central focus of community, sort of Harlem and beyond. But we're focusing on the ones local to us. Right.
Yeah, I thought that was quite an interesting theme, and I was trying to figure out how you were going to envision how to do these sort of giant light-based puppets. So why don't you tell us, Melissa, what did you think?
So that's definitely Sophia and Alex's expertise in terms of the kind of art that's going into the engineering and the structure and the way that the lanterns themselves are built. One of the kind of founding principles that we liked was the idea that we wanted to shed new light on Morningside Park, and it's a little bit of an overlooked park in the neighborhood. When you think of parks, people always think of Central Park or Riverside Park, and we're huge fans of Morningside Park. It's a beautiful gem, and so the idea that we wanted to show a side of the park that people weren't otherwise seeing, and the idea that we would bring illuminated lanterns to literally shine a light in this park. And so, you know, the range of creations that people have made over the course of the 5 years thus far is pretty remarkable. I mean, some of them are so big, and they require multiple people, 3 people, 4 people, to actually, you know, bring them and have them traverse from the park and then back to the campus. Some of them are smaller. You know, we have ones that are created that children can make themselves and carry.
I mean, each year so for each theme, our hope, Alex and I, as artists, is to involve people in the building of processions, and that's what we do year round. Our company, Processional Arts Workshop, is a small nonprofit, and we do site-specific and community-built processions in, you know, worldwide, but always with this idea of, to us as artists, we want to involve local community members, and so the aspect of the processions can change radically if it's in Morningside Park or in a small village in the mountains of Italy. But in this case, and this is not always the case, we come up with an overarching theme, and we teach people techniques, but we invite people to come in and design the lanterns. Often, in other contexts, we might say, this is what we're building, and kind of we need your help to make it happen. But in this case, we are really opening it up. As artists, it requires a lot of faith in the community, because it is ultimately for us our artistic expression, where we see processions as our art form, but we invite people to come in, and we see that as bringing, you know, increasing the wealth, sort of bringing this wealth of vision to ideas that we have. We come up with these crazy schemes, and we hope, first of all, we hope people will show up. Secondly, we hope that they will be willing to collaborate with us on the ideas. We're quite specific about what we want, not the you have to do this kind of a lantern or that kind of a lantern, but you have to adhere to the theme. It's not okay for the secret gardens to do, you know, say, well, I'm going to go off and do something that has nothing to do with that. That's not. But we have this faith in people, and so we're hoping that they will come in with their expertise. I'm not a very successful gardener. I might be a better gardener of people, but I'm hoping there are lots of people who come in that are connected to some of these gardens that might say, well, there is a special way that we take soda bottles and carve them out and plant the little seedlings and hang them on a wall, which is an image that I've seen. And so I would like to make that a lantern and sort of make every single aspect more sort of grounded in the details of what these gardens look like, and thinking of aspects that are maybe not the obvious. So when you say a community garden, you sort of imagine plants and flowers and maybe some vegetables, and all of those images are welcome too. But there are the things that make them specific to these gardens, these 55, and probably there are more smaller ones that we haven't really dug up. Gardens that are of this neighborhood, that makes it relevant to these people, so that if someone sees someone might not be part of the workshops, but might come to the procession on the 23rd and say, I recognize that bench, because that bench is the bench in my garden where I go and sit with my grandkids and tell them about gardening, or whatever their associations are, but sort of to ground it in specificity and get away from maybe a generic interpretation of, anything goes. I mean, and at the same time, if someone wants to make a giant carrot lantern, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
But we've been surveying a bunch of garden partners, so that this project could not happen without the partnership of a great variety of individuals and organizational partners. And one of the reasons that the garden theme was attractive to us in the beginning, we did a partnership with the Down to Earth Farmers Market for the first time last year, and we saw that the way that the farmers market was so integral to that community, and how many hundreds of people were coming to the farmers market. And so the idea that we could have a multiplier effect if we partnered with a garden and the dozens or hundreds of people that are working with that garden, and that would enable us to reach many more people than we could just working on our own. And so one of the things that was interesting about the gardens, in the conversations that we've been having, is the way that they serve as a communal gathering space.
Yes.
So there's parties, there's concerts, there's events, so that it's a multidimensional space. It's not just about tending your plot.
No. I'm a member of Maggie's Garden. On 149th Street between Amsterdam and Broadway. So I do know that these spaces are more than just gardens. And
that kind of, so activating that pride of local space, that kind of pride of this is our space, this is our garden, and that pride that comes from that. There's something really beautiful about it. And we find with the workshops, especially, the way that people are working side by side, making art together, that doesn't happen in most people's everyday life. And it's bringing together people from radically different experiences, age group, education background, and there's something so beautiful about that. And we found that it's very true with the gardens also, that it's bringing together people from completely different backgrounds in a really meaningful way. And so we liked that there was the connection there with making art and working in a garden.
Yeah. In fact, this year I took on, that's why I'm exhausted. I decided to do 4 tree pits originally in front of my building. And then I said, well, then that's not balanced. So if I do 4 tree pits just on my side of the street, what about the other side of the street? So I decided to do 4 on the other side of the street, which required more work than the ones in front of my building. So then I met 2 sisters like a block away, and they did 8 tree pits with kids during the summer. Now you're hearing the exhaustion in my voice. So every morning at around 6:30, I'm there watering and I'm making sure that things are okay, sweeping the streets and now the gutter, and I'm sending a message, and it's working because we're trying to tell people you got to share this space. And so it's not just about you, it's about everyone. So I do know. And so tomorrow I have some young ladies who got some mums, and so we're going to be planting mums tomorrow morning. So this is interesting how what you've decided to do is all about sharing. Was that your intent?
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. And one of the beautiful things that we've heard from some of these gardens is that it started with just 1 or 2 dedicated individuals. So you decided that you would have 4 tree pits, you'd work on them, and then it expanded to 4 more, and then you've inspired your neighbors to do the same. So it was interesting to find that was the case with some of these gardens. It was just 1 or 2 people. It started as a very small, they're very dedicated, and then you look 3 years later, it's grown to 12, and then before you know it, there's a waiting list for a plot in these gardens. And so with us, the first year, it was such a leap of faith for us when we first started working with Alex and Sophia. We had never done this before.
Okay.
So the Arts Initiative and Miller Theater are two arts-focused departments at Columbia University, and we wanted a project that would be participatory in nature, allow people to, participate both from the campus and from the neighborhood, to connect those groups together in making art, to connect, both the park and the campus. And so they gave us a baseline. It's like, okay, well, what's our minimum buy-in? And I'm like, well, you need 75 people. And we're like, okay, we can do that. We can do 75 people. And the beauty of a procession is that it's participatory in its nature, and it does not require an audience. So unlike a parade where there are spectators and there are participants, in this case, our procession is 100% participatory. Everyone is invited into it. And so that first year, we started around like 118th Street in Morningside Park. And we had about 75 people. I think we met that minimum buy-in in terms of the people who were carrying lanterns. And then we came around by the waterfall, around to the ball field in the park. And there were hundreds of people waiting for us. And it gives me goosebumps when I talk about it, because it was so wonderful and so moving. And so in that first procession, we had over 500 people. So to go, we know we needed 75 and we had over 500. At the biggest, it's been about 1,600, 1,700 people coming together in Morningside Park for this beautiful procession that's about art.
Wow. Now that's impressive. To get 1,600 people for a peaceful sort of encounter, and it's all about art too.
That's right, absolutely right. And it's in the dark. It starts at 8:00, so it's completely in the dark. It's families, it's children, it's students. It's just beautiful. It's such a moving experience every year. The work of the workshops during the week, and then it builds in this beautiful culmination of this procession. It's one of my favorite activities that we do all year.
And just like your inspiration, sort of planting and starting and seeing other people coming around. We've also started to notice just a little bit in the last few years, people who don't come to the workshops but show up on that evening with a homemade lantern. Yes. They have researched the theme. They know there's a theme. They know they need to adhere to that. And they come with, a small lantern that they've made, and they join in. And that, to me, is the success of an event. That as processional artists, what we hope to do is create an event. Not all of them are annual events, but something that takes root, that is meaningful. And that first year, it was, I agree with Melissa, so moving, because all week people were coming through the workshop, and we had great turnout, and people were amazing in the workshop, but they were sort of skeptical. They said, well, who's going to come, and what, and we kept on saying, well, we as artists are very comfortable with not having an audience, which is a hard conversation to have sometimes with people, because it kind of goes counter to what we expect. The success of an event is you have to have a lot of people. And to us, Alex and I would sort of say, well, what if we bump into one person walking his dog at night and seeing the magic of these 40 giant lanterns coming through and not expecting it? Maybe his experience is worth having 1,000 people there.
Now you're speaking, because I tried to deal with a funder, talking about funders earlier. And the funder felt that my art project, wasn't successful because I didn't have thousands of people. I said, well, it's not meant to be about thousands of people. What it was supposed to be, because in this digital age, you have to stitch communities together.
That's right.
That's really the new paradigm.
That's right.
And so I stitched groups of 40 to 50 people. And so when you add it up, it was several hundred, but you don't necessarily have to have several hundred at that one event. You stitch things together.
That's right.
And I'm so glad you said that, because artists need to say that, because like our previous guest, the funder, wanting to know what example.
That's right.
An innovative project, how many people have done it before? Well, what makes it innovative is the fact that nobody ever did it before. So, yes, what you're saying is a very, very crucial point that funders don't get. In fact, many of them need to get more hands-on with the arts so that they can fully understand it's a process. That's the reason why I was interested with your whole processional, and I actually joined one year where I did it for a day. It's a process, and it's real work.
It's a lot of work,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
why we need hundreds of people to come throughout the week and help us build, because it's physically just takes time. But that time, just like growing a garden, is what brings people together. So they're there. You might be able to come on the first day and have a really busy week, and maybe you come back later in the week and you see the lantern that you started. Maybe you started building the armature and you had an idea, and that lantern gets passed on to the next person or group of people who come in for the next session or the next day, and it evolves without you who may have started it or us as sort of the artists kind of overseeing the whole process being able to micromanage, well, that's okay and that's not okay. You know, we sort of, it's a collaboration on every level, as it is a collaboration with Miller Theater and the Arts Initiative, to just have the partners on the ground who can do the sort of the outreach and the connection, because this project is meaningful when the people who are involved with the gardens come and work with people who maybe don't have any experience about it, and learn about it sort of on a hands-on way. So to me, it's really about quality and not quantity. And then for that person, that sort of mythic person walking his dog in the middle of the night, at this point it is a rather well-attended event, and so might have a little bit of foreshadowing, but just the experience of seeing something and not knowing what it is, and not understanding and not having it laid out. And maybe there's, this year it would be sort of, certainly there will be plants and vegetables, but also suddenly that, you know, a chicken or a bench or a beehive or a cat, and sort of wondering, well, why are these elements there, and trying to make sense of it. To us, that is the magic of it, and also just where you know, you sort of, it draws people in, because it's not immediately clear what it is.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for talking with us. We're going to end this portion of our segment and then bring Melissa back with Lina Puerta. All right, thank you. And we are back with State of the Arts NYC, where we talk about art. And so now we are going to have Melissa back, Melissa Smey from Columbia University, and we're going to have one of her artists, Lina Puerta. I've known Lina for quite some time. I've never met Lina, but this is the closest I have of meeting Lina. And Lina Puerta is doing this special installation, site-specific, but it's inspired from her Botanico Series that she's been evolving for several years. So, Lina, are you there?
I am.
Thank
How are
you,
Savona?
I'm fine. This is the first time we get a chance to really kind of talk. We worked together, if you remember, several years ago on 2nd Avenue. Where No Longer Empty was doing that pop-up installation.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes.
Here in in Harlem, in East Harlem.
Yes, it was in East Harlem. And my team was dealing with the environment and kind of doing the suspended piece to let people know what that was all about the trash that's in the ocean and how we could deal with that. So we have kind of worked together, but I've never had a chance to really, really get to meet you. So this is fantastic.
Yes, thank you. I hope we get to meet in person soon.
Yes, and just for the benefit of our audience, Lina is in New Orleans right now, and that's because she's an artist in residence with the Joan Mitchell Foundation. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes. I have a special place in my heart for New Orleans. I haven't gone back in many years, but I had a smashing good time in New Orleans. The food there is phenomenal. I can't I can't say how great it is. It's like nowhere else in the United States. So you're going to have a really good time enjoying the food there, the music there. It's like no other place in America. And congratulations on that. So
thank you so much.
Yes, so Lina, your Botanico Series is inspired by, this is the part that caught my attention, by weeds and uncontrolled nature. And I thought that was, that's pretty interesting because you're talking about how you cannot control people's spirits. You cannot control developments. You can't, even with us dealing with climate change, and that's why your being in New Orleans is quite important because they still haven't recovered from Katrina, that you're saying that nature still perseveres. It's so resilient that even in the midst of horrific hurricanes, and there's another one coming to New York. Jose is coming next week. That nature still prevails. Yes. So what made you think about the Botanico Series?
The Botanico Series started in 2010. Actually, at that No Longer Empty exhibition that you were mentioning, that was my first installation of the Botanico Series, and it has kind of evolved since then and has gotten bigger, and bigger in the sense that I have had the opportunity to make installations of the Botanico Series and different sizes through different institutions. And this particular one at Columbia, at the Miller Theater with Columbia University, is called Manigua, which is a word that it's a title that I chose more as a referencing what it evokes. Manigua refers to it has different meanings in Spanish, but it could be like a jungle or more like a dark, mysterious nature place that is impenetrable. So I'm interested in that mystery that is within nature, and in the Botanico Series, as you said, I like to point to or question our humans' almost obsession with desire to control nature, and how nature, especially in cities, has become, like the nature that we are exposed to, is more and more placed. Everything has been placed. Everything has been cut. So all the nature around us is almost controlled and placed there, and how we are constantly selecting what plants are good and which ones are not, and how, as you said, nature perseveres. And also another component of this series is that I use artificial plants, which to me is kind of an ultimate form of wanting to control nature. You know, by what prompted us to create plastic plants, you know. So it's the idea that it's a plant that is maintenance-free, that never dies, never wilters. It's always in bloom.
Let me let Melissa jump in a little bit on that, because I thought that was interesting, because I wasn't sure when I saw one of your installations if it was real plants or plastic. So now you've confirmed everything I needed to know. But it's really behind the issue of perfection and about control. Because I think a lot of people in America are so afraid of failure. That we had last week the senior producer for the new Vietnam film with Ken Burns. And one of the things that they deal with almost from the very beginning is the issue of failure, that the wall was a failure. So here you are talking pretty much almost the same thing. So Melissa, tell us, what did you think when Lina was sharing with you her concept for this whole installation?
So we were 100% on board. I mean, one of the things that's beautiful about the arts and artists is that for the most part, they're risk takers by their very nature, right? They're innovators, they're thinkers, they're out there taking risk. And so one of the things that's a privilege for me as a producer and curator of performing arts events and getting to work with visual artists like Lina is the opportunity to facilitate an environment where they're able to take that risk and to provide a supportive environment where they can try new ideas and new projects and test out new visions, and to be able to support that risk taking in a hopefully a supportive environment that's fostering their best work.
All right, because this whole issue of perfection and about control is really popping up every day, don't you think? Every day we get several news stories about one shenanigans after another. And it seems to be all about controlling people, intimidating people. Is that what you hope? I'm going to ask both of you. You hope that this installation is about getting people to stop worrying about perfection, to stop worrying about doing everything correctly, to allow yourself that opportunity to be flexible, to experiment, to kind of get to know who you are, because you can't grow unless you give yourself that kind of time and space.
Absolutely. And the idea that each person is bringing their own interpretation to the process, right? So when you come to Miller Theater and you come in the lobby, you're going to encounter Lina's work. Maybe you will know her already as an artist, but most people probably won't. So it's an introduction to her work, and it's an opportunity to experience it on your own terms and to draw your own conclusions. And I mean, isn't that what's the best thing about art, right? That you're able to form your own opinion, and someone is not forcing their viewpoint upon you of what it ought to be. And even in the case when an artist has a fairly proscribed idea of what the work is about, the truth is that once it's out in the world, each person encountering it is bringing their own perspective to it.
And what would you say, Lina, to what I just mentioned about this whole notion of worrying about control? Is that what you want people to feel, to stop worrying about controlling and feel comfortable with just letting things ride sometimes?
Well, I think Melissa put it very well, that it is up to anyone to interpret the work, and but I have an intention, but it ultimately is how the work is interpreted, and I think it does speak, as you said, about perfection, but it speaks about many other things like dominance, control. It kind of questions that, but it's not up to me. It's not something straightforward. There's an intention, but what it actually means, it's up to the viewer, what the viewer takes with him or her.
All right. Well, I would like to thank you for joining us. I know you're in New Orleans. You just arrived today. And thank you for participating with us. Now, Melissa, how long will Lina's installation be up at the Miller Theater?
So Lina's installation is at Miller Theater through June 29, and the space is open to the public Monday through Friday from 10 to 6, and then 2 hours before all of our performances.
Oh, wow.
And I would be remiss if I didn't note that we'll host a creative conversation with Lina on October 17.
Oh, okay.
More details about that are on our website at millertheater.com, but that's a great opportunity to get to meet Lina in person. So we'd be delighted if you would come.
Yes.
And we hope that as many listeners as possible are available. We'll come and check it out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, ladies. And we're going to stop right now and come back with a kind of break for you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So we're back with State of the Arts, where we cover arts. We just had Lina Puerta and Melissa Smey. And so we were talking about her new installation, the Botanico Series. Before that, we had, now, I hope I am saying her name correctly now, Sophia Michahelles. Michahelles, okay. And she and her husband, Alex Kahn, they co-direct the Morningside Lights. So I just want to thank all of our guests. I'd like to thank these ladies and Hugh Welchman for joining our show this week. And we just want to remind everyone that on September 30th, WBAI will be working in collaboration with the Apollo Theater on a conversation that will celebrate the new opera, We Shall Not Be Moved. And we were lucky to have Daniel Romaine, Mark Joseph, who are the principals of that opera on our show. Yay, State of the Arts. And get your tickets. They're free for this community conversation. That is September 30th. So we hope everyone has a great week. Stay safe. We hear that Hurricane Jose is coming, and we will talk to you again next week, Friday. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
I'm Jesse Lent with the WBAI Resistance Calendar. Friday, September 15th at 6 p.m., the organization Rise and Resist NYC is holding a martial training for protests in room 310 at the LGBT Community Center at 208 West 13th Street in Manhattan. What's marshalling, you may ask? Marshalling is a form of resistance, reads an explainer from Rise and Resist NYC. Marshals help build community by supporting direct action protests. As marshals, we know the scenario for an action because we've been involved in the action's planning, and we work together to support protesters so they can do what they need to do while keeping the action as safe as possible. Learn more about becoming a marshal at facebook.com/riseandresistnyc. On September 19th at 10 a.m., a demonstration demanding the decolonization of Puerto Rico will be held at the United Nations headquarters at Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza on East 47th Street and 1st Avenue in Manhattan. Because of the colonial system that rules the island, Puerto Ricans are isolated from international forums and from the possibility of generating international supportive relationships, reads an official statement from organizers. The flow of information concerning the situation in Puerto Rico is controlled by the interests of the big corporations. We need to come together and let the world know that the colonial exploitation of millions of Puerto Ricans is inhuman, immoral, and illegal. To find out more, call 347-291-3646 or email melinagm@gmail.com. Wednesday, September 20th, if you'd like to get involved with the Russian-speaking LGBT Association, the group will hold what they're calling an anti-violence project training at 6:30 p.m. at Congregation Bet Simchat Torah at 130 West 30th Street between 6th and 7th Avenues in Manhattan. According to the Russian-speaking American LGBT Association, or RUSA LGBT for short, the Anti-Violence Project training, which will be led by Nishan Bamik, a Legal Services Equal Justice Works Fellow, will instruct participants on how to work with victims of violence in addition to offering planning strategies on how to most effectively organize and mobilize resources for the cause. To find out more, go to facebook.com/rusa.lgbt. And on Thursday, September 21st at 6:30 p.m., the NYU Center for the Study of Gender and Sexuality will hold a free panel discussion celebrating the recent release of performance studies professor Malik Gaines' new book, Black Performance on the Outskirts of the Left, A History of the Impossible, on the 6th floor of the university's facilities at 721 Broadway in Manhattan. Gaines will be joined on the panel by Ricardo Montez, humanities professor at the New School, along with fellow NYU performance studies professors Fred Motten and Alexandra Vasquez. Black Performance on the Outskirts of the Left, A History of the Impossible, investigates political movements within the African American community that radicalized the artistic endeavors of musicians, playwrights, and actors in the 1960s. Learn more by calling 212-992-9540 or by sending an email to csgs@nyu.edu. That's the WBAI Resistance Calendar for the week ending Saturday, September 16th. I'm Jesse Lent.
Beginning with a rare meeting with Fidel Castro, director Jerry Rice takes us on her personal journey to find out why the U.S. embargo against Cuba has persisted long after the Cold War decade that marked a division between two countries only 90 miles apart. Hola, this is Hector Elizondo. Embargo's relevance to today's political climate is a perfect point to begin a new conversation. Embargo opens Friday, September 15th, through Thursday, September 21st at the Village East Cinema, 189 2nd Avenue, New York City. 6 screenings daily. For tickets or more information, visit WBAI.org. WBAI is a proud media sponsor.
What's up, world?
What's up, y'all?
My name is Manchild Black.
And my name is Monster Black.
And together we are the Illustrious Blacks. And you've already had the good taste to listen to our show, On Air with the Blacks, on WBAI.
Now we're inviting you to see us live at the Apollo Theater for free.
We're part of Apollo Uptown Hall, Movement Required, September 30th at 4 p.m.
Hosted by WBAI's Imhotep Gary Bird. It's a conversation about police, community relations, and artists as activists.
And it's the Apollo, so you know we've got to provide great music for the people.
The Illustrious Blacks at Apollo Uptown Hall, Movement Required, Saturday, September 30th at 4 p.m.
More information and free tickets are available through WBAI.org. In the meantime,